Good evening. So grateful that you're here. If you're not seated and not in line to buy a drink for my wife, then you must be seated, please. Otherwise. I'm Carlos Campo, the president here at Ashland University. Grateful to be part of this event. You know, higher ed's been around for about 1,000 years. No, I wasn't part of that first class at the University of Bologna in 1068 or so when it all got started. But before then, education really took place among the elite. And when you could afford it, you would have your young son. Sorry, ladies, this is going back to the times when we didn't realize the tremendous potential that women had. Your son would sit with a tutor, and they would study really only one author, Homer. And they would, for the most part, study only one work, the Odyssey, maybe the greatest work ever written, some say. Simple story about a man who's just trying to get home. Well, Alfred, Lord Tennyson, the first poet laureate of England, took a different tack when he thought about Tennyson. When Tennyson thought about Odysseus, he saw him as a different man. He looked at a different time in his life, a time when he was older. And in his poem, it's not the Odysseus, the young man who was simply trying to get home. He was actually a man who'd returned home. But he had this desire to go out again, to explore, because it was such a part of who his life was. One of my favorite lines in the poem, I think, is reflected in this group tonight. Odysseus, thinking back on his life, he says, "I am a part of all that I have met, and experience is an arch, wherethrough gleams the untraveled world, whose margin fades forever and forever when I move." And it's not just that I was recently with the MBA students in Israel, that I think about us being a part of all that we have met. But instead, I think about our lives as this arch, and we move through the arch, and this experience is this distant future that we're moving toward as we're all in this journey together. God has put us on these individual roads, and yet our experience is reflected in the lives of those around us. And as I look across this room and I see the lives, so many who have touched our lives in the 3 years we've been here at Ashland and even before then, I realize that we are all a part of all that we have met. Education truly means to draw out that which is within. And I'm so grateful for the leadership at this college, the College of Business, for the 40th year anniversary, because as I've heard from you, you literally have poured into my life your own experiences, talking to me about your own aspirations and what's next for you on that arch as you walk through it. So as we walk through it together, let us continue to affirm that the greatest things we are learning, we're learning from one another. That God has put us on different paths, perhaps, but how wonderful that they intersect here at this place together to celebrate together. Lives that have touched our lives. Looking at Dr. Ford, whose intersections are many, and so many lives have been impacted by her life. Dr. Granot, not here long, but his impact has already been strong. And so many of you supporting the program, graduating from the program. How many graduating literally this May? I want to see hands. I know a few of you. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? I'm applauding in my heart because my son was actually among those who raised his hand. So off the payroll, yes, that's right. So that's wonderful. And my grandson for the first time at an event. So Parker James, wave to everyone. There's Parker James, there's Parker James. Yeah. I want to bring to the stage now, I said earlier to one of our graduates, I said, you know, we have a lot going on at Ashland. There are a lot of pots that are boiling in my world, and some are boiling over. And it's nice to know that I have a dean that I know I have a watched pot that is boiling but never boiling over because of his leadership. He is not only a thoughtful man, but he's someone that really understands our ethos here at Ashland. He has driven us to new excellence at this school, and we're so grateful that he's with us. Please help me welcome Elad Granot, Dean Granot.
Stay here with me for a second. I told Carlos to stay here with me, and he's already worried what the next surprise is going to be. Right, Terry? As the president mentioned, we were in Israel this last March on a what we called a Holy Land / Startup Nation tour. And the president and Mrs. Campo came with us, as well as a few trustees, friends of the university, faculty, and staff. We had an amazing time, and one of the things that was constant throughout the study tour was that our phenomenal tour guide every day would lay out the map of Israel in the front of the bus and would track on the map where we would go that day. And it became a ritual. Every day we would look and see where we were, where we are now, and at the end of the trip, I made sure to collect that map because I had an idea. And so, Carrie, if you can help me here, we have something to present to the president. I hope you can hear me. This is the map. Carrie's going to help me. And this is the land of Israel, and a picture of all of us at Tel Gezer with our trusted trustee, Terry Hoficker, who led us through the promised land, and we all sat together and with the help and the sage advice of Dan Lawson, we picked a biblical verse that I'd like to read to the president, and the plaque says, "Proudly presented to President Carlos Campo, Ashland University MBA Study Tour of Israel, March 2018, and from Ezekiel 11:17. Therefore says the Lord God, I will gather you from the peoples and assemble you out of the countries where you have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel." And we have seen that land, and here's the proof, and this is to you and for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to put it right up in front. Liam will get back to him.
Oh, sure. You want to?
More pictures? Oh, that,
Yeah.
of course.
One
Sorry, Allison. Forget who really runs this show. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. I'd like to introduce our first speaker, John McDonald, Dr. John McDonald, who also has his MBA from us here. John is a teacher, an entrepreneur, and business strategist who partners with companies to build new business growth in often disruptive business environments. After spending a long career in the international biopharmaceutical environment, John knows what makes a difference in building a sustainable business and how to leverage the company value chain as a source of competitive advantage. John has always enjoyed the startup environment, and after leaving the corporate world, started a successful cancer diagnostics company, which improved treatment choice, leading to better outcomes. As a business strategist, John has worked with Monsanto, Oregon State University, the Ohio State University, never heard of them, where he partnered with leadership to build business growth and new revenue streams. John's passion for teaching adult students, and MBA students among them, of course, is based on interacting with the next generation of business leaders, all of you here, and using business knowledge as the basis for competitive advantage. John's educational background includes an MBA and PhD with a focus on healthcare mergers and acquisition, and he lives with his family in Ohio, and now they call New Hampshire home. John.
Thank you, Dr. Greneau. I started thinking about this, and it's been, as I go back, almost 25 years since I started my MBA journey. And we had just received a new president. I was working for Pharmacia down in Columbus, Ohio, and our new president, Fernando da Costa, had come up from Brazil, and he recommended to me forcefully that I needed to advance my education and get an MBA. We looked at a number of different schools and finally chose Ashland. That was the best fit. All right. It wasn't easy. Any MBA student, I think, will share the problems that you face, balancing academics with your business responsibilities and your family. And all of these things
put pressure on you. But I persisted, and I had great instructors, and certainly Steve's constant support to get through the program. I finally persisted and graduated. And I remember at my graduation, I came over to Steve and I thanked him for everything and all the help. And all the people that had participated along the way. And Steve just looked at me and said one thing. He said, "It's all about the individual." I never thought too much, but I certainly shared in that value. Here I was, freshly minted MBA, ready to go out and tackle the world. And little did I know that my boss, Fernando da Costa, had already signed me up for international responsibilities. So I headed out first to Milan in Italy, and then to Stockholm in Sweden. I thought these were short assignments. I was gone for approximately 7 years. But those MBA skills were something that I took along the way. And they helped me not only with the technical skills, but also with those other kind of skills. How to be a good manager, how a good manager gets to be a good leader, how a good leader learns to be a good communicator. All those things were really important. Oh, and one other thing, along the way, for some reason, I took my finance textbook with me. I don't know why. Maybe it was the toughest course I had to face, but that was my partner, and I used it in many of the situations I had to sit up at nights and think about things. And so that was my partner. At the same time, I thought, Ashland really isn't that far away, even when you're located in Milan, Italy. I've got it right here in my room. And I remembered that. Well, I came back, early 2000s, returned to our headquarters in New York City for Pfizer, headed up corporate mergers and acquisitions, and after that, left the company, started a small cancer diagnostics company. It was built in an area where our company was doing a lot of research, and I was concerned. It was in breast cancer. Why does every woman who gets treated for breast cancer get a choice about 4 or 5 different approaches, protocols, but they all seem to get a lot of toxicity along the way? So this was a business where I thought we could try to figure this out and help try to improve the cause, and we did. It eventually got purchased by a larger strategic partner. I went on, finished my PhD at that time, and of all things in finance, with my trusty finance textbook as a reference on my citations. And since then, as Dr. Gano mentioned, I've been doing consulting, and that consulting spans a number of things. It's really focused around strategic growth, and that has to do with corporate partners and academic partners. Academic partners, how to create value streams, financial streams that haven't got anything to do with students, to diversify the finances of the organization. Right. But all of this is just a little history. I think what's really important is what actually brought me back to Ashland. Okay. Well, when I returned to New York in early 2000, I was working on a large global healthcare merger. I was leading the team, and we were working with our transaction bank partner, Morgan Stanley. And I met at their headquarters. And I had meetings in 2001 on a weekly basis every Tuesday. We were set up for our meeting coming up, and one of my employees, critical to the negotiations, very sensitive period in the negotiations, and he called me up on Sunday evening. He said, "John, I've broken my foot, and I can't come to the meeting." And I encouraged him. I said, "Do whatever you need. This is really important. We put in a lot of effort to get to this point." I thought about it. I called him back later that night, and I said, you're right. I'm going to reschedule." And I rescheduled. The meeting I rescheduled was for Tuesday, September the 11th, 2001, at Morgan Stanley's headquarters in the World Trade Center. Now, for the next 2 weeks, I tried to understand what had happened. I couldn't. I still can't. I tried to figure this out. Finally, I came to a couple of conclusions. The first one was that God gave us something very precious when he gave us our life. The second thing I realized is I had spent the majority of my own career focused on growing my own skills and my own worth. What had just happened was a wake-up call. Time to change, John. As I sat there at my desk at my home thinking, I looked over, and who's looking back at me? My old finance textbook, right there in the corner. I don't know how it got there. I thought I had buried it in the closet, but here it was. The next day, I picked up the phone, and I phoned this guy, Steve Krispinski. And I said, Steve, it's time for me to give back. I want to teach MBA students. Steve gave me a try, and it turned out to be a very productive relationship for both of us. What has my MBA at Ashland done for me? It hasn't changed my life. It's changed my point of view about life. And I think that's what it can do for anyone. I am sure that everyone in this room has many reasons why they're connected with Ashland University and with the College of Business and Economics. I have basically one. It's all about the student. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That's our next 30-second commercial. Ron, make sure it goes on WKYC. Our next guest speaker is President Para Jones of Stark State College. Para Jones, Dr. Jones, has been the president of Stark State since 2012. She also served as president of Spartanburg Community College in South Carolina. The majority of Dr. Jones's 30-year community college career has been in Northeast Ohio and Stark State, where she led advancement, marketing, legislative relations, fundraising, grants, student services, admissions, career development, institutional research and planning. Did you also make lunch, Dr. Jones? She has taught online and on the ground business classes at Stark State and in Ashland University's MBA program. Prior to academia, she worked in corporate marketing and communications for Roadway Express and as a technical editor for Goodyear Aerospace. Dr. Jones's passion for the community college mission is driven by her belief that students are best served by affordable, quality education that leads to rewarding careers. Dr. Jones holds a PhD from the University of Nebraska, an MBA with honors from Ashland University, and a bachelor's degree from the University of Mount Union. Among the many professional and community-based organizations she serves are the President's Council of the Ohio Association of Community Colleges, the Executive Board of the Greater Akron Chamber of Commerce, and several regional boards, including Akron Urban League and others. There's a long list here, you gotta believe me. Dr. Jones is also a member of the National Association of Manufacturers Education Council in Washington and Team NEO's Business Development Council. I met Dr. Jones's husband today. They both live in Kenton, where they raise their sons, and are, it turns out now, our grandparents. I can't believe it, Parrot doesn't. Greg, yes, but you? Ladies and gentlemen, President Para Jones.
Happy anniversary, Ashland University MBA program. So many of us in this room can remember, John, you did a great job describing a very illustrious international career and how Ashland University helped to spur and make your career a success. And we all remember Steve Krispinski. So my own story isn't quite as international and exciting. I'm an Ohio girl. Love Ohio, spent a lot of time here. But imagine me starting my MBA back in probably 1990, twin boys, 4 years old, working full-time at Stark State College at that time. And I went to my first class. Remember how our classes in Stark County were at different locations all the time, Steve? So the first class was at Mercy Medical Center, and it was a lecture hall. I walked in, and each student, as we often do in our classes, we introduced ourselves, who we are. And so I introduced myself, and a woman leaned over to me and she said, "Get out while you can." So I thought, well, what am I in for now? An undergraduate English, Communications, and Spanish major from the University of Mount Union, now enrolled in an MBA program. But I had my sister, Lisa Heropoulos, who is an undergraduate Ashland University business graduate. And Lisa also went on for her MBA at Ashland. And she said, you can do it. Ashland's a great place. The faculty are excellent. Well, it didn't take me long to figure that out. After I got through that first class and a little bit of intimidation, I met professors like Javier Garcia, who I had for international business in the summer, yes, at another location. And Javier was great, knew his stuff, but always had that sort of laid-back Javier way about him, often with Huarache sandals on, and so we all felt a little more comfortable. Doug Anderson, excellent professor who really engaged us in thinking about organizations and how organizations become stronger. And I saw him tonight for the first time in 24 or 25 years, and I said, "Doug, what I remember is sitting in your class and how you said as businesses you need to stick to your knitting and you need to dance with the one that brought you." So I remember to this day, but I think one of my favorite professors, and I talked to a couple of you tonight, was Dr. Porman, a math professor who I was lucky to have for statistics. Now you might ask, why in the world would statistics and Dr. Porman be so interesting? First of all, he was a gentleman. He cared about every student in the class. And he taught me a teaching technique that I continue to use today. And professors at Stark State always ask me when I go to speak to classrooms, how do you remember the students in the class? You're in there for a half hour, 45 minutes. And what Dr. Porman taught me is that he sent little note cards around the first day of class and asked us to put our names and a little about ourselves. And then every class session, because we always sit in the same seats, right? I mean, even if we're not assigned to those seats, that's what we do. He would just organize those index cards. And so by the second class, he knew each one of us and something about us. So what I learned from him is you connect to those students. And it doesn't matter what you're teaching, it's going to make sense to those students. And they're going to care about it and work hard. So Ashland University, I must say, congratulations. It's a great celebration. I can't imagine. And Dr. Campo, congratulations to you for celebrating tonight. And I know we can relate to the importance of presidents in colleges and universities today having a strong business background. Now, when I went to get the MBA here at Ashland, I had no clue I was going to be a college president. But what I can tell you is I can't imagine a more valuable degree for running an institution. So again, I'm so grateful to have that solid business background. And I guess one of the things I'm proudest of is I mentioned to many of the professors in the room and administrators in the room this evening, at Stark State College, we have a wonderful continuing connection with Ashland. And one of those connections is that the Ashland MBA classes are taught on our campus. Many years ago, our associate degree in nursing, we were looking for good Bachelor of Science in Nursing partners. Ashland was our first BSN partner, I am proud to say, and we continue to have a great relationship. And we're now exploring more relationships in the area of manufacturing and industrial management. So we continue to have strong relationships with Ashland, as we should, two great institutions. And we have a lot of people at Stark State who are Ashland University MBA graduates. our CFO, our Dean of Engineering Technology, our Dean of Health and Human Services, and many, many more. In fact, you know, it's really fun. I get to work with my CFO on a regular basis, and I know what he learned, and I know what I learned, and I know how to ask the right questions as a president, Dr. Campo. And we have to do that all the time. So it comes in very, very handy. So this evening, as all of us gather to celebrate, I want to say thank you to the professors who added so much to my education and my preparation for leadership. And I want to say thank you for an educational experience that was also about building excellent relationships that continue today. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Our next speaker was scheduled to be Sean Phelps, a double graduate of Ashland University's College of Business and Economics. Sean is ill, and we all wish him fast recovery, and he'll be here for some other happy events, I'm sure. And so I will proceed to introduce our next guest speaker. You know, there's one woman who I'm afraid of, and she's sitting right there. She looks really pretty, but I'm afraid of her. And then I met another one. I came to Ashland University, and everyone kept talking about Dr. Ford. Dr. Ford, Dr. Ford, you got to meet Dr. Ford. And I said, I can't wait to meet Dr. Ford. And you know, it's more than just afraid, Lucille. It's fear and love together. I think it's awe. It's the sense you get when you talk to someone and they know so much and they care so much and their heart is so big. And I felt humbled. And those who know me know that doesn't happen often. And I listened a lot, and I still do. And so I'm going to read her bio, but it doesn't do her justice. And I can't wait till I hear what she has to say tonight. Lucille Ford was born and lived most of her life here in Ashland. She holds an Associate Degree of Arts from Stevens College, a BS in Commerce, an MBA from Case Western Reserve, another place I've never heard of, and a Master's in Pastoral Counseling from the Ashland Theological Seminary. After receiving her PhD in economics from Case, she became a beloved faculty member here at Ashland University. She also served as a dean and provost and a board member at Ashland University for many years before leaving to found and lead for 17 years the Ashland County Community Foundation. As a trailblazer, in the true sense of the word, she was the first woman to run for Lieutenant Governor of Ohio. She served on 5 major public company boards. Among her many recognitions and honors, she was inducted into the Ohio Women's Hall of Fame and recently inducted into the Ohio Foundation of Independent Colleges Hall of Excellence. Lucille remains an active member of the Ashland community, receiving the role of Grand Marshal of the community's bicentennial parade. She was married for 60 years and had 2 daughters with doctoral degrees and 2 grandchildren with master's degrees. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucille Ford.
Can we put this down a little?
Yeah, sure.
Well, what do I say when I look at all those wonderful people? Let me tell you something. It's very rare to have the opportunity to touch infancy, to go forward, to live in the hearts, the minds, the futures. My future is right out there. Oh gosh, I love every one of you. and so sincere. You know what I really did? I would say to each student, if you remember, and you may not remember this because I camouflaged it, I said, are we too loud?
No, you're good. Go.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that better? Yes. Too loud, too soft, tell me. No. I just am overwhelmed with, I did take a master's in pastoral counseling. I thought, what I'd really like to do now is find out what makes people tick. And so I spent 3 years, and I can tell you in 3 sentences what makes people tick. And what makes them tick is they want to love, they want to be loved, and they want to be productive. And by golly, you people with the MBAs are out there leading the path. Would every person in the room that I have touched, academically, professionally, would you stand up, please? I want to show you what is the world. Look at these people. Look at these wonderful people. Oh. I know I'm supposed to stay on this thing, but please understand, you are my reward. You are my manifestation. You are my love. You are my commitment. And you have not failed me. You have gone beyond my expectations. You have reached into the corners of the world. You have touched the children in your family and the little ones around you and your grandchildren some. And I can go from Bruce Bookmeyer, who was #1 student right here. That was the first student. And then later, he and his wife came into my house to write a scholarship. And it goes on and on. I'd like to take each one of you. Carlos, I have a small request of you. Could I please have a raise? Now, I know he's going to say that's fine because you can take 2 times 0 is still 0. Anyway, I don't know why I do this. I want to talk about the MBA for just a minute. Steve Krasinski handed this to me. Now, this is our history. This is the almost 6,000 graduates. Try to imagine 6,000. Bruce, you see what you did? You were #1. Well, and we live on, I'll tell you, I have a bad hip, but if I'd known I was going to live so long, I'd had it operated on. But you know how that is. I fooled myself, and so what do you do with it? Well, you just keep going right on. You don't quit. For goodness sakes, don't ever quit. Don't ever stop. The greatest joy in the whole world is to help an individual go into the wilderness of life and find themselves in their passion. And when they grab that passion, whatever it is, you can't stop them. Just look at what you've done in here. I would like to take the time, and I can't do it. I know it's just one entry, but Steve, he said, go ahead and say whatever you want to say. That was really very nice. It was very, very nice of him, because I didn't have to do a script. I did write stuff out, but then I threw it away. I threw that away. I don't want that stuff. I want the stuff that says, you are special people. The university is a special place. It is a place where we nurture, and we do that loving, and teach love as well. And we teach commitment. And you know what else we teach? Hard work. And that's all right. Hard work is a valuable thing, because it isn't really work if you like what you're doing. And of course, as we decided this brand new idea of sending professors out, you know, why? Nobody ever heard of this. Everybody came to campuses all over the world. And we said, well, why don't we go to them? We took all of our travels all over, and some people would say, half acre. You got the first word, didn't you, that I didn't say out loud? And so we went from Lima, Ohio, and I must tell you this little story. One night, it was about 11 o'clock, and I at home at night, and I wanted something that was down at the office, so I had a long satin heavy robe, and so I thought, well, 11:30, you know, nobody will be there. So I'll go down and go to the office. Okay, so I did, and I'm sitting there at my desk with getting whatever I had, and I was in this long satin robe, and guess who walked by? Fred Rayfeld, and he's in the room. And he just walked right by and said, "Good evening, Dr. Ford," and kept right on going. He had just come back from Lima, I think. And the fascination thing, and the reason I tell you that story is, our very best people, our very best faculty took the challenge and did things that it's almost unbelievable, Dr. Carlos, because they would go the distance. They would travel day and night. They would do, and these are the top people. These are not the freshman faculty. These are the best faculty. And the way we did it was to take the best. And as the best went out, you students become the best. Can I ask the students who have a degree from Ashland University just to stand, please, so we can see you all at once? Please just stand up if you got a degree. If you got a degree. Oh. Oh. There's my legacy, Steve, and I'll go sit down. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. God bless you. You're the best. No. Yeah, get it. Oh, no. Okay, watch it. You okay? Okay. You good? You good? Okay. Watch that hip. Okay. At this time, I'd like to call up the special assistant to the dean, Ron Mickler. Ron has joined our MBA team here this past year and has done a yeoman's job. Ron, come on up here and explain a little about our one-year MBA program. You may want to, let's get up there. You're a little taller than that, okay? I think they can see you. You're not 6'2". You're 6'2".
I'll take 6'2".
Yeah, you're 6'2".
5'11". Wow, I'm shrinking. So, well, good evening, everybody. I really thank you for putting me after Dr. Ford. You know, I mean, so grateful. Anyway, good evening, everybody. My name is Ron Mickler. I am the special assistant to the dean for the MBA programs, and it is my honor to be celebrating with you all this evening the 40th anniversary of the Ashland University MBA program. A lot of good things came out of the year 1978, not only the MBA program, so I'll just leave that with you. Anyway, I have a fun job this evening. I get to give away something that is truly free. But before I do, I just want to take a few minutes and explain a little bit about what is being given away. In January of 2017, we launched the one-year international MBA program out of our MBA Center in Columbus. Not only was this type of program a first for Ashland University, but it's also the first MBA program of its kind. This program involves 2 international study tours within the 1 year of the program, and it truly distinguishes our brand and ourselves from our competition. Thanks to Dean Granot's vision, the dedicated work of our faculty, the tremendous work of Steve Krasinski, and the tireless hours Catherine Rivera put into ensuring that the students were processed and registered. That was scripted, so I'm glad we all clapped. No, anyway. We were able to put together a very strong cohort, and that cohort, which graduated in December of 2017, traveled to Lisbon, Prague, and Barcelona. Since January of 2017, we now expanded into the Cleveland market, and we will be graduating 2 cohorts this summer, God willing, and they pay their graduation application fee, just kidding. One from Columbus and another one from Cleveland. These international study tours comprise of an average of 10 company visits, among all different areas of business, including entrepreneurship, as well as cultural activities to get to know the region. Our tours spend an average of 8 to 10 days in length, and incorporated within the students' tuition are the cost of the airfare, the group meals, hotel accommodations, and transportation to the company and cultural visits. Recent tours have gone to, in addition to Lisbon, Barcelona, and Prague, Vietnam and Hong Kong, with a pit stop in Japan, thank you, United Airlines, and Israel, obviously. Upcoming tours are traveling to Estonia and Denmark next week, and during the fall, we will be traveling to Prague in October, and Manchester and Amsterdam in November. Our spring 2019 tours will be going to Paris in March and Israel in May. So what am I giving away? I'm glad you asked. So we are awarding this evening one lucky MBA alum in the audience to go on a tour of his or her choice, all expenses paid, no questions asked. We will present to this winner a certificate redeemable at any time, so it truly is free. I'm not just making this up, and plus both of my bosses are right here in front of me. The lucky recipient will have all of my contact information on the certificate, and I will be happy to coordinate for you your tour of choice. So Steve, would you do me the honor, and Dr. Ford, of pulling the lucky winner? Just one. Or can we give away more than no?
Here we go, Ronald. You open it up and say, I don't know.
Dr. John McDonald.
Okay, I'll put it away.
It was a pleasure meeting you at the reception. No, congratulations, Dr. McDonald, and thank you, everyone. I'd like to introduce to you now our next speaker, the Executive Director of the MBA Programs, Mr. Steve Krispinski.
Thank you. Ron, thank you, brother. Okay, now that's, whoops, all right. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this great celebration we have of 40 years at Ashland University. I guess, Bruce, we want to recognize you again as being the first student in the MBA program, the first graduate of the MBA program, and so we're honored for you to have you here. In the back of the room there is a picture of Bruce and Professor John Frost. Back in the, when we first started the program in '78, you had to take 10 courses plus an independent research project, and that's how it was for a couple years. And I know, Bruce, you got through that in 1980. You've completed your independent research project with Professor Frost as your primary advisor, and there's a picture back there. Even though the nameplate says 1970, it was really 1980, okay, Bruce? John, it was 1980, okay? And where's John, okay? So that's it. But it's back there, so you can look at that. So congratulations, Bruce, and we're thankful for you to being here with us. I know you're fighting through some things there, personal things, but thank you so much. And it means a lot to us to have you here to celebrate this 40th year, because you're the one that started it, okay? Thank you. Well, I promise you, I will be brief here. I will not talk for too long. You have to understand, I do talk fast because I am from Youngstown, Ohio. And as my brother Tom will say, we all talk fast from Youngstown, so we're always on the move doing things. But back in 1983, this is how things started. I was the director of the evening weekend program, BSBA, Bachelor of Science Business Evening Weekend Program. 1983, we were looking for a director of the MBA program. And we did, there were about 5 people Dr. Ford was looking at, and she struck out for every reason. No, I don't want to do that. Are you crazy? Drive to Lima? And I said, why don't you want to take it? Okay, none of this and that. So finally, I think they just got desperate and said, Steve, will you consider doing this? And here we are. I think, Patty, I think you were expecting that. I think our son Danny wasn't even born yet. And I said, Patty, what do you think? Should we do this or what? What do you think? She goes, come on, go for it. It's an opportunity. What are you going to do? And President Jones and President Campo, if you're going to back down from opportunities, you're going to back down from challenges, higher education is some place for you to be. So I said, hey, here I am. Come on. Youngstown, former football player, I'm ready. Let's go. So I went ahead and I did it, and I didn't know what I was getting into. And then Dr. Ford said, okay, Steve, we've had 3 directors in the past 4 years. Whatever you do, I want stability. Don't you dare leave until I basically tell you. So I'm still waiting, okay? But it's been a great run, and I guess I see why some of the people did not want to take the job. Driving to Lima, driving to Strasburg High School, driving to Medina, Marion, Lorraine. And when I told my wife I'm going to Marion, Lorraine, she goes, you know, we're just married. Are those women you're going to see? No, no, Patty, you know that, yeah. So that was a joke in our household a lot, yeah. So, but that's what it is. But you know, there was a lot of work, a lot of evenings, and a lot of Saturdays, and I did those, and but we did it, and you know, this is how crazy we were. Dr. Ford always has, I have a good friend. You know, I'm sure we all heard that. Those of us who know Dr. Ford, I have a good friend. You got to listen. So she had a good friend out there in Lima, Ed Bomley, Dr. Bomley, who was the director of the Bowling Green program. And what happened was Bowling Green pulled out of Lima. Therefore, her good friend called and said, would you be interested in continuing this program? So sure enough, there we go. So I had inherited that. So next thing I know, I'm driving to Lima. And I had an idea where Lima was, but, you know, where Neil Armstrong grew up there, Wapakoneta area, Lima, that's where it is. So then she gets this idea. Well, you know what? White New Idea, they're looking for an in-house MBA program. And those of you who know where White New Idea is, it's a farming manufacturing school place. Yeah, some of you faculty know. Coldwater, Ohio is 8 miles from the border of Indiana. Oh, it's just a little west of Lima. So I drive out there, and one of our faculty members said, Steve, you're only 8 miles west. I did not believe him. He said, yes, there will be a church on one corner and a bar on the next corner. And little did I know, it was 8.5 miles. I went over there, it was. So there we were. So that's how we got to White New Idea. I don't know if you remember that, Lucille. We did that. We did several in-house programs. Again, a good friend of hers up at the Nordson Corporation, Mr. Nord. I think you knew some people who knew him. You got us in there. Lauren Manufacturing in-house program in New Philadelphia. Let's see, Steel Tube, Ohio Steel Tube in Shelby. And of course, now we are in Mount Vernon. We did Cooper Energy Services. That was Cooper Industries, the first round. Second round, Energy Services. The third round was Rolls-Royce. And I think one of our adjuncts out there, Leanna Hara, I think you taught in all 3 of those places. So we were there, and that's what we did. But let me talk about some of the lessons that I learned here when I came aboard. And first was from Bill Mass. And I don't think Bill is here today, but he taught me the lesson of problem solving. There's always a solution to a problem with a student. Just keep turning over stones. If this one stone isn't, keep turning over stones and help them out and find a solution and get them a course to graduate. Second lesson was passion. And of course, Dr. Ford, you taught me passion. When I had my first office in a Gill Center, I would walk by and hear you just excited, talking about things, how exciting things were. I said, wow, what is that lady doing? And I thought, you know what? If you're going to do this job, you better grab some of that passion. And I did that, and I learned that from you. And I want to thank you for that one. That was a valuable lesson. And from that day forward, I did my job with passion with the MBA students. The third one I learned was from Les Woodburn, and Les passed away, unfortunately, several years ago. But Les Woodburn was a pioneer here. What he did is he started these off-campus programs by going into businesses, talking to them, meeting with employees, starting all these off-campus centers. He knew all the superintendents at all these schools, Strasburg High School, Marion Tri-Rivers, Lorraine, Ehovie up near Sandusky. He knew that he had contacts, and he started these for them. But he really laid the groundwork here, and recognition needs to be given to him. I know Les has passed years ago, but I was looking for him to be my mentor, my training, and you know, right before I took the job, poor Les passed away, so it's learn on the job. I was training on the job, and that's what I had to do. But I know I kept calling Dr. Ford about this and that, you know, and I guess one day I looked at myself and said, why are you always calling Dr. Ford? Just go ahead and make the decisions and learn from your mistakes. And that's what I did. But that was it. And the fourth lesson I learned was commitment. And I learned it from my wife of 38 years. When I was gone on weekends or Saturdays and evenings, there was Patty. Patty taking care of the kids, making sure they had their baths, schoolwork done. And of course, we had athletes. So Patty had to get them to their soccer games. And let me tell you something. She found soccer fields before the GPSs, before the MapQuest, before it Waze. somehow, I know the kids and Danny, our son Danny is here. Danny played soccer a lot, and Michael and Kelly, all three of them. But they said, well, Mom, how are we going to get to the field if Dad isn't here? She goes, don't worry, I will tell you. I said, that's what I like about a tough Irish woman there. Yeah, so she got him there. But I appreciate it. But it was commitment. And I took that commitment that you taught me, to commitment to the family, to me, and I took that commitment to Ashland University and to my job. So thank you. Let me talk about our deans. We had Dean Ford, of course. Dr. Ford was our dean. Dr. Rayfeld, I don't believe he's here, but we have Paul Sears. Paul Sears was our dean at one time. Jeff Russell, Cush Pittenger. I don't know if Cush is here. I know Jeff is. Cush is here. Cush was our dean for 2 years and came in when we really did some calming. Cush has that calming personality. She was here. And, of course, we have Dean Grenote here right now. But all of you deans that I worked with supported me. But we all did things. We all started the off-campus programs. We started the in-house programs. We started the online programs. Paul Sears, we started the competency-based program. We did other things. Jeff Russell, how about those online programs, Jeff? We took the guts and we went out and did an online program about 10 years ago, and look what it is today. And, of course, Dean Grenote just raised the bar, and he's like our Urban Meyer, our football. He just raises the bar higher than what the other deans did, and we appreciate that. But we did it, under the things, and I always remember what the late Martin Luther King said: if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, go forward. And that's what we did, deans. Yeah, we were crawling sometimes, we were running, we were flying, but we were going forward. That was important. So, deans, thank you for everything you did for this MBA program. Thank you. And I can't go without recognizing all the presidents that were here when I worked here. The late President Schultz, who was support of the program, obviously. Dr. Benz, Dr. Finks, President Finks, and of course now President Campo. So thanks all of you presidents who are here and not here. Thank you for what you did for the program, because you supported us all the time. Thank you. We appreciate that. And let me give a shout out. I think we have only one of our assistant directors here of the MBA program, Scott Freehaver. Dr. Scott Freehaver out there now over at Finley. But Scott, thank you for all you did, and the assistant directors of the MBA program while I was there. And yeah, we'll get to those. Yeah, okay. Now, let me just talk about some of the special thank yous. There are some I have to thank, special thank yous. And first and foremost, it goes to the faculty. Because, as I say, my recipe for a successful MBA program is quality instruction, convenience and flexibility, and support staff and administration. That's my recipe for a successful MBA program. And without a quality instruction, the first one, you're not going to survive. You're done. As you students know that. You've got to have quality instruction. But the special thank you goes to the faculty. The faculty who, Lima, Ohio, Doug Anderson, who is here today, drove not once but twice a week to Lima to teach courses, Dr. Ford. Doug, you could thank Lucille Ford for that, okay? But he did it. Yeah, he did it. Thanks, Doug. Those are the things. I remember Professor Pittenger teaching at Marion. And, guys, you have to understand, when it snowed, no big deal. We're having class. That's the way I was. My pet peeve was canceling classes. It had to be a foot of snow before that. Because you know why? Our MBA students go to class or go to work when it's snowing, right? So why can't we have class? So that was it. But poor Professor Pittenger is leaving Marion Tri-Rivers Career Center one day, and we happen to have about probably, 6 inches of snow. She ends up in a farmer's field, cornfield, okay? The farmer was so kind, came out, got his tractor, pulled her out of the ditch, and on the way she went. Whew. I'm glad I wasn't your neighbor then, Cush, okay, as I am today. But that's what it was, and I remember, too, it was I think it was April 1st, April Fool's Day. Medina, no, we're having class. 6 inches. It'll stop. 8 inches of wet snow. It'll stop. 10 inches. It'll stop, guys, trust me. 13 inches, it finally stopped. But it was April 1st. April Fool's, well, that didn't go over too well with the faculty or students, but we had class anyway, so again, I did not like canceling classes for some reason, but nowadays you have to when it's 2 or 3 inches, or what happens. So we did that. But the faculty who drove the off-campus sites, who came home at 11 o'clock at night, who we asked you to teach on Saturdays, you folks did that. designing new courses, working with our students, obviously, going above and beyond the call of duty, but you did it. And I appreciate that. And all of us, Dr. Campo, as you mentioned, had that motto, acts on an individual. That's why we were proud. That's why we did it. That's why we were successful. We did it. I remember another one, Professor Garcia calls me up at, I don't know, he's leaving Strasburg High School. We had a college card, thanks to Dr. Ford from the Shelby Insurance Group. Your friend, another good friend of yours, gave us a car. And I remember Professor Garcia had it coming home from Strasburg. Car breaks down, calls me. Steve, I'm over at this farmer's place. Can you come and get me? It's in Apple Creek, Ohio. Apple Creek. I said, oh my gosh. I remember, Javier, we didn't get home till like 11:30 that night, but we got home. We worked it out. So that was good. But again, the faculty, what they did, going above and beyond, and I owe you, all of you a sincere thank you. And faculty, what was my number one question when I would come to you? Do you have room for one more student? Steve Poole, I mean, well, let's start with Professor Rebecca Schmeller and Professor Deb Westerfeld, because you guys are the beginning courses, you two professors, you taught that. Deb and Rebecca, could you take one more student? Yeah, you did. But you didn't do it for me, you did it for the MBA students, and that's why I appreciate doing that. And then at the end, the 517 course, yes, Dr. John McDonald, Dr. Steve Poole is here today, and let's see, Pat Berry, can you take one more student? The student needs to graduate. Can you put him in the class or her in the class? Yes, they always said yes. And faculty, I appreciate that as well as the students. Thank you. We had some good times, yeah. And you wonder, well, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Today we had a student show up at our cocktail hour, and remember, Professor Steve Poole, okay? The student had an incomplete from 2008 or whatever it was. And it was a 517 course, Strategic Planning and Policy. And I said, how am I going to get her done? Who did she have? She had Professor Poole. I said, well, Steve and I are okay. You know, we're good friends. We were good friends, I think, yeah. But I called him up, said, Steve, what can we do here? This student who was here today needed this complete this course so she can graduate. Steve said, let me think about it. Let's see what she needs. Steve comes back to me with 2 case studies, presents them, get these case studies done. I'll work with her. Now, mind you, Steve Poole is 2 years out from retirement. He retired 2 years ago. Steve, I owe you a favor, okay? Thank you for working with her. Yeah. And that student will graduate on Saturday, thanks to Steve Poole, who again, retired 2 years ago. Come on. But that's what kind of faculty we have, and that's why, again, the number one ingredient in my recipe, quality instruction, commitment to the students, and that's what we did. So I owe a special thank you for you people. Again, you went above and beyond, and I appreciate that. My second special thank you goes to none other than Catherine Rivera. What would we do without Catherine Rivera? Catherine works as administrative assistant in the MBA office. She's everything. She's a confidant to the faculty. She works with the students. I can't tell you how many international students will come to the office homesick, just needing someone to talk to in the evening, and there's Catherine Rivera, always there talking to them. 31 years, Catherine, you worked with me. I think that right there elevates you to sainthood, okay? I mean, Patty, what's up? But, Catherine, what you have done to this program, you are the unsung hero of this program, and I can't thank you enough, okay? Yes. And a little shout out to our Columbus workers. I think we only have Anna Webb here. Anna, you help us out in that one-year program on Saturday. Thank you. Yep. And your assistant there, when you can't make it, we have Gina Rivera. Catherine's daughter helps us out, who lives in Columbus. Thank you so much. You guys are great. Appreciate that. Yep. And you know, it's been a long journey. I know it's. Someone keeps saying, how do you do this? How do you keep coming back? And graduation is my favorite day of the job. It's one of my favorite days. Because you know why? I get to see the mother of 3 children who raised them by herself walk across stage and get her diploma. I see the lady who had 2 bouts with cancer, not 1, but 2. Took 10 years, but she came back and finished the MBA program. To see her family at the end when she received her diploma applaud. I see the 2 ladies from Stark County who work for Family Services non-business degree holders come to me, say, Steve, you think I could do this? I said, well, let's try it. Let's design a plan. Let's design a curriculum here for you. They fought through it. They had challenges, but they got through. Both received promotions. But to see them walk across stage and be thankful to the faculty who worked with them, who took extra time, that's what it's about. That. To see a student, father of 6, saying, I'll come back and complete the program because my oldest son is in med school. I want to come back and complete the program. He did that last fall. Remember, Catherine? He did that. That's what it is. That's what it's about. And to see a student who had some chemical dependency problems, fight through them, battle through them, take time off, come back, and finish his MBA. That's what drove me. That's what drove me to come back, keep coming back. And that's what it's about. And, you know, it's been a long run. It's been a great journey. It's been fun. And Patty, you know, Ashland University holds a dear and dear place in our hearts. 2 of our 3 children have graduated from here. Danny, my son here, he's the soccer coach here for the Ashland University women's team. He's on his 6th year. Our daughter Kelly works in Chicago as a professional travel trainer. She completed here. I don't know about Michael. He decided to go to University of Toledo, so he's the black sheep of the family, I guess. But he's out at Portland, Oregon, working for Nike as a financial analyst, and but they all love Ashland University. They all follow Ashland University wherever they go. They bleed purple and gold, Carlos, and we like that. But again, Lucille, I owe that to you because you gave me the opportunity. Thank you. That's good. Appreciate that. Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't say these departments on campus who played an integral part in the success of our 40 years, our career services, I see you out there, Len Roy, and of course Karen Higgins, International Student Services and Program, IT, Learn AU, Financial Aid, Registrar's Office, Safety Services, Facilities Management, Auxiliary Services, and of course our catering service who gave us this fine meal today, Jim Meisel and his people, thank you. Development Office, Institutional Advancement now. Student Affairs, and where's my friend Sue Hyman out there? Sue out there? Sue, thank you. We go way back, man. Thank you. Yeah, good to see you. And I don't know if Ralph is here or not, but Ralph, myself, and Sue came about the same time. And hey, I'll talk to you later. Human Resource Management, the Office Human Resource Management, at AU Bookstore, Enrollment Management, Graduate Admissions, Library, Jeff Pekin, I see you out there, Alumni Office, Public Relations, Marketing and Communications, Institutional Research, Center for Entrepreneurship, Graphic Design, the Business Office, Student Accounts, thank you. And all the off-campus centers. We were at Stark State Para, thank you, Medina Center, Columbus Center, the Maslin Center, all those other ones. We had those programs. Lucille, I counted 28 locations where we offered our MBA program. 28 where we no longer offer. Isn't that amazing? Where we did? So we were all over the state of Ohio. That's it. Folks, after 35 years running the MBA program, it's been a great run. It's been a great journey. And Dr. Ford, I remember you said, hey, I need stability. And I think I redefined the word stability there. And you said, I'll tell you when you could go. Well, I think, folks, the time has come. I felt it's been a great journey, and I believe this September I'll be stepping aside and moving on to another career. And that career will be a retirement, and you know, I just want to give somebody else the opportunity. Lucille Ford gave me the opportunity, and I think it's time that I step aside and give someone else the opportunity. But before I stop, the most important people I want to say thank you to are the students, because without you, we wouldn't be here. Thank you. I thank you again, as I mentioned, when I see you walk across stage, that is the happiest day of my life at Ashland University. The emails you sent to me, the letters they sent to me about what a great experience you had in this program, how valuable it was to you, just to expand on what John McDonald said and Para Jones. That's what kept driving me. And to see that you got promoted, what promotions you received, new jobs, new careers because of our MBA program, and how you thanked the faculty, all the faculty there. I know, Lucille, I got one more. Poor John Frost, I forgot this one, John. You were teaching at Marion Tri-Rivers. You had 28 people. All I had were 28 chairs and the tables and chairs for you. and all of a sudden you said, Steve, there's 6 more students. What am I going to do? I said, wait a minute, I'll be right back. I went, I got the custodian, we pulled the room divider back. Yeah, and people say, well, why did John retire so early? I mean, why didn't he say? I don't know. John, I had nothing to do with that. But again, going back to the students, or you faculty, could I have one more in that class, one more in that class? Yeah, you did it, but not for me, for these students here. But students, you have no idea how important that is. And there's, one more. You international students who come here from abroad, 4,000, 5,000 miles away, you show up at our doorstep. Homesick, culture shock, not knowing anybody. What do I do? What do I do? And of course, so many of you befriended Catherine Rivera. She helps you out. She's like your surrogate mom. She's there for you. And then 2 years later, I see the smile on your face when you walk across the stage. Priceless. That's what it's about. Thank you. Right. Thank you. Right. Thank you.
Stay right here. You gotta stay here.
Oh, here.
Yeah. Thank you. Stay here, Steve. I thought it might be appropriate to give Steve this tonight because it is a treasure that I have. This is in the March the 22nd, 24th, in 1993, and this is the first accreditation, a CBSP, and the date is on here. It is the treasure that I received at our very first accreditation, and you know, Dean, what that means. You got one coming up.
That's right, yeah.
All right.
There you go. Big one.
And so I want Steve to have this that is my treasure as a tiny little thing that says, "We love you, Steve."
Oh, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, hey, just, yeah. I do want to recognize, I do have some of my family members here. Of course, I have my son, Danny, and his wife, Maddie, here. Thank you for coming, Danny and Maddie. And I have my brother, my sister, Marianne, who's always here. Marianne, thank you for the years for supporting my family, my kids, watching our kids, and of course, our dog, new dog. Thank you. We do appreciate that. And then I have my brother, Tom, and his wife, Maria, here. And I appreciate that, Tom. You know, we always talked about opportunities. You and I growing up in Youngstown, Ohio, without a pot to you-know-what in. But thank you, man. We had a great time. And I always say, how did you do it? How did you guys do it from Youngstown, Ohio? And I said, you know, my brother and I say, we had a mom, our mother, and all our mom did was pray. She prayed, and she prayed, and she prayed. And I'll never forget that. So I guess prayer is powerful, and that's what did it for us. So, Tom, you know, I appreciate that. Patty, can't pick him up. God bless. Take care. Let me do it, man. Hey, a colleague 28 years ago, I'll never forget, I'll always remember this, because we started our program in Columbus, Ohio. Ray Jacobs arrives, and you could tell the story, I'm sure, our old buddy Doug Anderson. You know, Doug, all I had to do with Doug, Doug deserves the credit for starting that Columbus program. Doug, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, too. You helped us get that program started. All I had to do, back then there was a restaurant called Chi-Chi's. All I had to do was buy Doug enchiladas and margaritas, and he was fine. He was Ray Jacobs, a colleague, a friend of mine, the graduate chair, the associate dean and graduate chair, and a colleague of mine for 28 years. Ray, go ahead.
Thanks, Steve. Check the time. I was told I had to be done by 9, so okay, I'm good. Boy, Ron, where we are, so I get to follow Dr. Ford and Steve, so you know it doesn't get any easier. Am I going after you? Yeah, I think I'm it. I'm at the end. Well, I almost did anyway. Yeah, this has been a great event. I'd like to add my thanks to our team, Carrie and Jenny and Elizabeth, for all the hard work, creativity, and setting all this stuff up. Event planners extraordinaire, and thanks all to everybody, to the students, of course, the alumni who were here, family members, faculty, administrators, friends for attending tonight. Phenomenal event, and I can hardly wait till we see what next year looks like at our 41st Anniversary Gala, so looking forward to that. This is, as Steve said, this is my 28th year here at AU. Not as long as Steve, but it's still a long time. And Dr. Ford hired me, and every time we run into each other, she always reminds me that fact, and I'm never sure if it's because she's proud that she hired me or she's still shaking her head thinking, what was I thinking? He's still not leaving. I don't know, but I've seen a lot of changes in those 28 years for sure, some of which have already been mentioned. The curriculum has changed, and I'm looking at my notes. I forgot about, because I wasn't here yet. I was born, but I wasn't here yet, that it was 10 classes plus the 601, 602 independent research. But then it became 12 classes, and so you didn't have any choice. These are the 12 classes you took. And then there were 3 MBA seminars. You could do 3 one-hour seminars in place of one of the classes. And that was the early advising load, right? Which class aren't you going to take in place of those seminars? And then right after I came, I never taught the class, but I developed the MIS class. So now there were 13 classes. So, now you had to pick one of those, or if you picked seminar, it started to get complicated. It's gotten a lot more complicated now. Now we've got a new core. We started specializations back right before I became MBA chair when Dick Simons was MBA chair. And so now we have, 12, 13 specializations and more growing, and new one-year programs and different things. So it's and we've transitioned from a 36-hour to a 30-hour program. So no question that things have changed very much over time, and always changed for the better. More quality, serving the students what they needed is always at the forefront. When I arrived in 1990, as you've already heard, we had a program with many locations serving students throughout Ohio, and Steve was mentioned. I taught the very first semester I was here was the first fall we taught in Columbus. And I was hoping Doug would be here, because I remember this story. Doug said, well, I'll take you down there, show you where the campus is, and we'll go grab some lunch. And so some of you may know Doug. He, was not a slow driver at that time. And so we zipped on down there in no time, got there, showed me around the campus. We drove to Chi-Chi's. I guess that was the place. And we had lunch, and we come out to the car, and somebody's broken in and stolen his radar detector. And all I could think of is, what part of Columbus is this? It's broad daylight, we're eating lunch, and somebody, but, that was the last time I ever heard of anyone having anything stolen or any other issue like that at Columbus. So it was just kind of an initiation, I guess. But when you think of all the different locations, I was, and I didn't come up with 28. I was trying to come up with them, but I thought it'd be fun. It's like, how many of you either had classes or, for the faculty here, taught classes at Columbus? Raise your hands if you taught at Columbus at some point. How about Mount Vernon? I taught there too. Marion? A couple from Marion. Ehovie? A few from Ehovie. I think some of these are the faculty who taught at all these places. One of our many locations in Medina, right? Probably at least 4 different locations there in Medina, something like that. Or many locations in Stark County. I think there was the question with that of, I think we've moved to 2 buildings that we owned and a couple other places, and now at Stark State. Westlake. No, I guess I never taught in Westlake, so I'll put my hand down. Lima, Bluffton, Coldwater, as Steve mentioned, and the in-house programs. Copperweld and Shelby, I taught there. Nordson and Amherst. Lauren Manufacturing, New Philadelphia, and of course our newest location in Cleveland. We've been a lot of different places, and of course this is before online, so the idea was you went to the student. These are working students. These are students who, can't drive to Ashland. There weren't that many part-time programs, certainly not of our quality at that time. So we went to the students, and that's what online does today. Of course, now we have we can get to the students by connecting them to online. But at first, it was driving everywhere, and I think you mentioned the term roadrunners. That was, I think Dr. Ford coined that. The faculty were the roadrunners, always on the road going somewhere, and roadrunners. And I had to get a prop. I went, and those of you who know me, you know, if you've ever seen my office, it's not exactly one of those, you know, like looks like nobody lives here. There's stuff everywhere. But I knew I had a notepad that we got, I think, probably in like 1992 or something. Everybody, Ashland University Roadrunner. It took me a minute and a half to find it, but I still have a few pages left on my Ashland University Roadrunner notepad. But that was the idea. We drove around, we went to those places, and give the students the flexibility they needed. And when we started developing online courses in the late 1990s, I think is when we first started doing that. Remember, you know, Al Gore didn't invent the internet until the mid-90s, so it was after that. You know, we had our fully online MBA approved by the Ohio Board of Regents, now the Board of Higher Ed, but the Ohio Board of Regents, North Central HLC in 2009. So that gave our students the option to take the entire program online. Before that, we just had some classes. I think Beverly Hyman, is Beverly here? Beverly Hyman was the MBA chair who led that effort and through to get that. And just out of curiosity, how many people here have taken at least one class online as part of your program? So few now. I imagine those numbers when we do our next few of these, we'll see more of those because that part is certainly growing in the program. And you know, I remember this, you know, students, and I don't have too many stories, but it's funny, with John McDonald, I remember him as a very good student in class in Columbus, probably 93, I guess it was. And when you were telling your story, I was thinking, so he took the finance book. He didn't take the operations management book. So I had to think either, you know, maybe that meant that he learned everything that was in that book, so he didn't need to carry it around as a crutch, or maybe he didn't need that one as much. But I know he learned some of it because actually just, I guess, earlier this semester, you know, I was definitely overloaded with, I'm associate dean, but I was still teaching some classes, but I had one very large online class, and John very graciously agreed to basically help teach the class, and I know my wife is appreciative that I survived the first 2 months of the year by having some assistance with the grading and interacting with the students. But yeah, definitely, you know, in addition to online and off-campus locations, we've consolidated a lot of our off-campus locations now. We're primarily in Cleveland, which is new, Columbus, and Ashland. We still plan to offer classes at Stark State. We just closed Medina. So we're really getting down to where we're looking at just a couple areas, but online is making up for a lot of that. But we've added a lot of other levels of complexity in the program. And one of those is when Alad joined us just a little under 2 years ago and proposed starting that one-year international MBA. And so it was actually a nice closure of sorts for me because I taught in the very first class in the very first cohort of the online MBA in Columbus, which by this point we had now owned the building, and it was a phenomenal experience. I know there's actually some of the students who were in that program graduated from that one-year MBA this past December, and you know, it's interesting because we had never really done cohort-based program before, and maybe the very first program or two, everybody was in it together, but a lot of the argument was, well, cohorts, you know, students want flexibility, you know, but providing this cohort model, the thing that struck me the most is after just the first, it was every Saturday, so I'd have the class from 8 a.m. to noon, then we'd all eat lunch together, and then it was always, Deb Westerfelt would come in and teach 501 from 1 to 5, and by really about the third or fourth week, I noticed, you know, the students really have gotten to know each other, and it had to feel, you know, from what I remembered, it's been a while ago, but what I remember to being in a full-time graduate program, it started to have that feel that people were, you know, knew each other and were in this together. And when we went on that first international study tour to Prague, by the time we got home from that first tour, and it's not a trip, it's a tour. That when we got back from that first study tour, that cohort I thought was, you know, everybody had a very good cohesive sense of being in that together, and I really liked the idea that you know, again, it was Alad's innovation of 2 study tours, because in previous programs you get back and went, wow, I wish we could do that again. Well, now the students can do another one right at the end of their program, and by that point they've had almost all the classes, and it's another phenomenal experience. So. You know, but there's, you know, when you look at the idea of going on these tours, and I had to add the one, you know, you mentioned the stopover in Japan, thanks to United. Well, we forgot to stop over in Amsterdam, and some of the students decided that since we had a long layover of 5 hours or something, maybe they could tour Amsterdam and come back. And one student got her passport pickpocketed, trying to talk your way back into an international terminal to fly on to another country without a passport, and the phone rings, and Steve and I somehow agreed that we would watch everybody's bags, their carry-on bags, while they all went and did this. So we're surrounded by 15 wheeled bags and half asleep, and it's like, what happened? Where are we going? And we had to get all those bags down to the airport to meet people. It all worked out fine. We all got there. The student had her replacement passport the next day. It was a great experience. But again, one more very bonding experience in that. We visit so many companies. You hear from the top executives of those companies. It's really phenomenal. And and the faculty had bonding opportunities as well. And I just have to say. Buffalo Trace is just is a perfect way to help us have a short meeting right before dinner, or even if you never do quite get around to dinner. But it was a great experience, and I would just say, and John will get to experience this. For the rest of you, we've had trustees, we've had alumni, we've had administrators, we've had students in other parts of the program. Consider going on one of these tours. It's not just taking a trip abroad. It really is a learning, educational experience, debriefing on the buses. I think it's, so that's kind of a shameless plug for that. But if you go, you won't regret it. It's a great opportunity. With all of these courses, all of these different locations, all these different delivery modes, you may wonder, how do we ever decide which courses get offered where? What was the rotation? And the answer was, the rotation was in Steve's brain. Steve would always come in and so I think we need to offer this class in Medina, and we need to offer this one here, and so-and-so, I'll get so-and-so to teach this class here. And he always managed to figure out if there was some student who needed a class somewhere to graduate, somehow, we had that class there. So, Steve tracked everything. I mean, he really had a handle on all that. And, as the more complex it got, although now it's tough even trying to keep track of these one-year programs. What if somebody starts halfway through? How do they catch things up? We always figure it out. So, I've seen a lot of administrators come and go in my 28 years here, and I won't name them all, but I figured out, I think we've had 7 different deans, 7 different provosts, and 7 different presidents during that time. But Steve has been, the one constant as the administrator, the executive director of the MBA program that whole time. And along with Catherine Rivera, who's always a true professional, using her experience, her knowledge, and seemingly endless patience to help students. And it's always about helping the students. And until a few years ago, Peg Hickey was part of that. It really was the MBA office with Steve, Catherine, and Peg. And for a while after that, it's been Steve and Catherine for many, many, many years. I've had the privilege of serving as associate dean for 11 years. Several of those have been just for this 1 year, and somehow, all right, one more year, and I've also been academic chair of the MBA program back in 2000, and then since 2011, when they realized after eliminating the position, previous administration, maybe we still need someone to do that. So, Ray, why don't you do that as well? So I'm back to doing that now. But Steve and I have always been a great team. We've always worked together extremely well. Very good at solving problems together. Basically we keep tossing it around, figuring out what's going to work out. Eventually, one of us comes up with a workable solution. And but there's been countless situations that never really became a problem, at least one that I had to deal with, which is what is most important, because Steve handled the situation in his usual efficient and effective way before it even got to me. And when I think about that, I have to touch briefly on the one hiccup that we had during this 40-year run of the MBA. And that was when, for a short time, although it seemed much longer than a short time, the MBA program was essentially taken away from our college when it was decided that all graduate programs would be managed by a centralized office. And there were good intentions behind this decision, thinking a centralized office would be a little more efficient and standardized. But I remember the dean at the time, Jeff Russell, and I trying to point out to no avail, how could you possibly be more efficient than 2 people? I mean, basically it's Steve and Catherine running this entire program, 500 plus students, and how could it be any more efficient than that? And we made up a long list of the things that Steve did as the program director, because we were asked to do so, and it was a long list. And I can remember Jeff and I sitting down there with a couple of administrators who are no longer here and saying, okay, who's going to do this? Steve did this. Who's going to do this? Because I said, I can't take on another thing. I can't do it. And they'd say, oh, well, we'll do that. We'll do that in the office. We'll do that. And that went on down the list. And then Steve told me later, he said he had a meeting to go over the same list, and he said, well, who's going to do this? And they said, Ray's going to do that. So, it's like, wait, that was a different thing. So, I wasn't very happy about that change, but, we worked through it. And the program still did well through it. But around the time that was happening, we were searching for a new dean. That was in early 2016. And I was the one selected to take the candidates when they visited on a tour of the Dowk building. And I vividly remember taking a lot on his tour because we started in the lobby, talked about how the building was named and so on, and then we took a short walk down the hall. That wasn't accidental. And we stopped in front of this office where the door was locked and the lights were off, and he said, what are these offices? And I said, well, that used to be the MBA office, but now, as you can see, there's a sign on the door that says, if you need help with the MBA, walk to the other end of campus to this other building and ask there. And I can remember what he said. He said, this is like a black eye in the college. I mean, you walk in, the first thing you see is this locked office, the lights are off, and the sign saying go somewhere else. And he said, if I come here, this is the first thing I will fix. And he did. He did. And then he made a statement that I'll always remember. He said, MBA programs are different from other graduate programs. MBA students are different from other graduate students. It takes a concierge model, like in a hotel. You need a concierge to provide the level of services that MBA students need and expect. And that idea really resonated with me because, I said, we had a concierge model. And that was the program. Steve, and with Catherine's assistance, Steve was a concierge. And that's the model we had. And Steve was the ultimate problem solver. He was a sympathetic ear encourager for students, pep talk, truly the face of the MBA program. We had that concierge program. Steve's naturally friendly with everyone. He'd get to know each and every student. And I know he enjoys, at graduation, walking the students go across, and because he knew them all. He knows them all. And he could even pronounce most of the names. So he was often chosen to be the one who would pronounce the names as they walked across the stage because he actually had talked with them, met them, and knew how to pronounce those names. And he was so patient with the students, and there were so many opportunities when he got to demonstrate his patience. But I do remember one case, and Catherine will remember too. He met with the student and told the student, no, you need to take this class, and you need to take this class. And then 2 minutes later, he heard the student out there talking to Catherine, I want to take this other class. And Steve coming out saying, I just told you, you can't take that class. But, other times I think he was still pretty patient. Thanks to the leadership provided by Dean Granode, as well as that provided by President Campo and Provost Chang, we once again have the MBA program in our building where it belongs. In the MBA offices, it's thriving and it's growing, and Steve is once again the leader of the program. Steve, could you come on back up on stage? You didn't think you were done, did you? No. But don't read what I have here. So, okay, no, you can.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, not only have I worked closely with Steve, my wife Ann and I are neighbors and friends of Steve and Patty for many years, and it's been a pleasure working with Steve as well as knowing Patty and Steve as neighbors. And Patty, can you come forward for a minute? Yeah, we have some flowers here for you, I guess you can. Well, I'll get you those down there. And Catherine, could you come up as well? I know you didn't want to come up on the stage, so you can stay. You can just come up right down here. But we have some flowers for each of you, and if we can please give them all both a big round of applause. Okay. Thank you. Elad, could you come on up as well for a minute here? Flowers? No flowers. I don't think so. No, we're all out of flowers. I think there's a leaf down there, but no more flowers. Words can't express how much Steve and Catherine have meant to the MBA program over many years, and you've heard a lot of testimonials tonight. As a leader of the MBA program, Steve has been an advisor and counselor to countless numbers of MBA students, and Catherine has been the helpful professional voice on the phone or in person, ready to assist students in any way, putting in extraordinarily long hours to get the job done. They've done their duties with an exceptionally high degree of competence and integrity, and with patience, and with good humor. And we have something else for Steve and for Catherine here. Thought those were just tables, didn't you?
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you.
These are nice benches here with their names on it, Ashland University Program, and I can't remember what else it says on there, but from the years here, very nice. One bench for Catherine, one bench for Steve. You can see what they say on here on the slides. So we were, when I say we were prepared, they were prepared.
Yes.
Now, when Steve does finally step down, as he's announced, his leadership will be greatly missed. But he set a good example, a tremendous example for others to follow. Just a few minutes ago, I told that story about the empty MBA office, the black eye on the Dow College of Business and Economics. Now that office is back to being the control center for the MBA program, the place where MBA students can go for help and be sure they will find a friendly face, and that high level of concierge service that they need and we want to provide. And when visitors come into the building from the parking lot and they walk in through that door, that office is the first thing they're going to see. And now, this is what it's going to look like in the near future, and from this point on, to remind all of us what the epitome of concierge service should be for an MBA program and who set the standard. Pretty cool, huh? They're not really up there yet. We've got a photo shot. Thank you. Surprise!
Not a dry eye in the house. This is the very least that we, all of us, could do for these people and for this amazing person. No longer shall there be a doubt about the MBA, its place, and who its face is. It is in COBE, on our campus. It is the flagship of the college, certainly one of the flagships of the university. Look around at all of you. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Thank you, Steve and Catherine and Patty. I know it's all you. And thank you, Dr. Ford, and thank you, Ray, and thank you, faculty and staff, and thank you, President Campo, and thank you, Provost Chang, for your support. None of this would be able without all of us. And so we are excited about the future. If you think we're on an upswing now, and we are, you haven't seen anything yet. We haven't even scratched the surface, right, Steve?
That's right.
And so we are excited about the future. We thank you so much for being with us here tonight, and we hope to do this again on the 41st. I don't know how we're going to top this. Carrie, you better start working on it now.
Yeah, maybe 42nd? Yeah.
It's great having you all here. Thank you very much, and have a great night. One more thing. And there's one more thing, because I am a marketing guy. Just to commemorate the service to the university and to the MBA office, which will be named the Stephen W. Krispinski MBA office from 1978 to 2018 here at the university. Small opportunities are often the beginning of great enterprise.
Thank you so much. Let me say one quick thing. Hey, a special shout out to all of you faculty there, again, who have made this possible. Students, it's all about you. And again, I know there's some out there, I didn't mention the Bob Stolls, the Dan Sullivans, the Dan Foxes, Joan Kellemus, who's helped us out tremendously in that HR area, taking over for Steve Pohl. Thank you. And Dan Fox, one quick thing. Dan Fox started a course, he says, in 96 or something like that. He said he had to go to Saudi Arabia for 6 weeks. I said, Dan, how are you going to teach a course in Columbus? Don't worry. I got a website set up and this thing called email. Don't worry. I didn't have to worry because Dan Fox came through. But take care. God bless you and have a great evening. Thanks again, man. Gentlemen, what a surprise.
Yeah.
You got me, man. You lied. You always get me, man. I told you. Thank you so much.
I think it hugged you.
Oh, what a...
Now what am I going to do? They say, who's going to do this? Well,
Tell people you love them when you have a chance, right?
So I told my daughter, I said, the most important thing you ever do in your life is relationships. I don't need to be in this.
yeah, why not?
Well, I get in there, man. I'm here. Get in. Get a lot in. Come on.
Special one.
Thank you.
In case you forget where your office is.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Good, right.